Welcome to the Las Coumeilles Kitchen Cafe. Here we are again on a slightly gloomy afternoon. I expect by this time of the year a bit more sunshine down here, but we are challenged with a little bit too much cloud at the moment. I'm delighted to be joined by someone, actually the closest of the people that I'm going to be interviewing for the Kitchen Cafe. She's just up the road in Toulouse, Hilary Haté, and this is what Sarah says about herself. I'm a bilingual transformational coach with a passion to share my knowledge and wisdom to help sensitive, empathic men and women transform their lives by letting go of their past fears and doubts and finding the courage and confidence to be who they really are. I love this bit. A badass with a good heart who loves everything to do with energy, emotions, nature, communication and human connection. A daughter, sister, wife, mum, friend, teacher and creator, as my clients tell me, an inspiration. Well, why am I not surprised about that? Sarah, welcome to the cafe.
Thank you so much, Hilary, for that lovely introduction and also just for this invitation to be able to take a bit of time out together and just have a chat. So thank you so much.
No, it's great to have you here. I hope you've got your teacup charged. I've got my favourite big red cup today. It's apple and cinnamon with a bit of extra ginger for a bit of zing.
Oh, lovely, lovely.
So we kind of fell over each other, and you wouldn't think that me living here in the middle of nowhere would find someone who had trained with the same coaching organisation that I trained with. And then there you were.
I know, I mean, how, well, not weird, but how sort of, like synchronistic is that? Yeah. I remember when I just finished my training, I thought I was the only person in France to have trained with that company. And so I was feeling a little bit isolated. And I think I must have asked if there were any coaches in France. Anyway, came across you and then realized that you were literally just down the road. It was like, wow, we were obviously meant to meet.
We were. I had another conversation yesterday with two really dear friends. We talked about the red thread that connects those of us who are supposed to be together, who are supposed to collaborate, meet, share in this lifetime. Yes. And that really felt like one of those moments. So we'll give a shout out to Simply Changing and Louise Trevitt, who did a cracking job on us both, I think.
I think so, yeah. Looking where we are now, yeah, definitely, definitely. So
I'd been looking for I've been in my employer for quite a long time, and they kept trying to send me on MBAs and to do some further qualifications, and nothing was ringing any bells until I saw Louise's program, and that for me was the next logical step to put to give me the theory behind what I already did to some extent, because I've always worked like that. I think those of us who are natural listeners and empaths and have been used by our friends as coaches free forever. And for me, this was a chance to find out the theory behind and to professionalize what I did. And I absolutely loved it. Great course.
It's funny how you came across it, because mine was sort of a similar path. I've been living in France for 30 years now, and I was actually originally an English teacher and a translator. And as the years went by, I found myself just doing less teaching, English language teaching, and a lot more what I now know to be coaching. But at the time, I didn't know that it was coaching. Yeah. And I've had quite a few wake-up calls. I think we all do. There's not just one. There can be several. And I had quite a few wake-up calls. And the last really, really big one was in 2015. And I'd come to the crossroads, a really big crossroads this time in my life. And I was thinking, do I want to carry on this path of teaching and translating? I was enjoying it, but I just felt there was something more for me. And so I let that sort of sit for a couple of months, probably. In between, I was put in touch with a woman who reads out Akashic records, which is something absolutely fantastic. And that sort of opened up this possibility of your path is to help people. So don't necessarily stop the teaching, but there maybe is another way. And I was like, oh, that sounds really intriguing. And then sort of, just looking on the internet and typing in coaching and whatever, couldn't find anything I liked in Toulouse, which you might think is a bit strange because, as you know, Toulouse is a massive city.
Yeah, university town, we've got loads of,
we have everything here, don't we? And I couldn't find anything. And I was like, that's really strange, because when I get nudges like this from the universe, it's what I need to do. And I was like, okay. And I realized that it was maybe because I was looking in French.
Okay.
So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to type in coaching. Obviously, that's the same word in French, but I can't remember, to be honest, the keywords in English. And I found, was it a forum or something? It wasn't Simply Changing to begin with. But anyway, very, very quickly reading the comments, saw somebody talking about Simply Changing, said it's absolutely fantastic. So I thought, oh, I love the name, because change can be anything but simple.
Yes, that's very true.
And so got the email address, sent an email off, had a lovely welcome email the next day, even though I hadn't signed up, but just a lovely, you know, email as I was already part of the group, already part of the team. And thank you, universe, because the next cohort was 3 weeks later.
There you go. Meant to be.
Meant to be. So yeah, so that was my path to Simply Changing. It really was listening to those nudges from the universe, typing in the right keywords, and just following the intuition. You know, it wasn't their website. I didn't find them on their website. So
We don't always get to where we need to be by the first door we open, do we? It is a question of perseverance and listening to that voice that's saying, if you, like you said, do you really want me to be doing this? You should have provided me with a route.
Yes.
No, it was.
Yes.
And I think I was their test learner on their distance learning program, because they'd run the face-to-face program from Louise's fantastic place. But they were developing the distance learning capability, and I am one of my areas of expertise is in distance learning, so it was a great one for me to test out and give some feedback on.
Yes. Yes.
But I had the privilege of being able to go and join in with the cohort as well, so I had some in the room time, some wonderful people.
Yes. Yes. So yeah, so that was sort of, you know, how we met, wasn't it? Through our coaching. So yeah.
And then we've both, I went on and did some EFT training and in the UK. And when I came here, then I wanted to redo it in French. So your French is way better than mine, and I'm not going to embarrass myself by starting talking in French today. But I did manage to find this course and do that. And I think you did the same program for the EFT, did you?
I don't know if it was the same, but yes, I'm also an EFT practitioner. Yes. So yeah, did level 1 back in, when was that? 2018, I think. And then did level 2 last year, 2020.
Okay. Because for me, it was a really logical follow-on to what the NLP had learned as part of the Simply Changing program.
Yes, yes. I find that I bring in a lot of different modalities, including my intuition, into my coaching. And yeah, EFT is just a wonderful tool to have. I mean, as you said, part of what I put out there is that I love energy. I mean, I can sense people's energy. I'm a very sensitive, very emotional person myself, but being able to have the tools that can help us navigate at times, it's just such a blessing, you know, it's such a great gift to have. And I originally came to EFT for me, because as I said, in 2015, I think that was when I found EFT as well, but just for me. And that really, really helped, because I was going through a very emotionally trying time. And yeah, so to be able to offer that too, it's wonderful.
But it is about having a toolkit, isn't it? For any of us that are practicing in these modalities, it's every client that gifts us with their trust to work with them. I like having 15 different ways I can approach, because each person is going to need something different.
Yeah, definitely.
And is there a difference? We've not talked about this. Is there a difference between French clients and English clients that you've worked with? Are our approaches the same across the cultures?
That's a really interesting question, and thanks for asking. I had the majority of my clients who were French, because of the way I was doing it to begin with. It was face-to-face, and it was mainly in a group context, because that's how I wanted to get myself out there. And so when I started offering this in English, and especially to people online, this has been like growing over the past year. And I was wondering, you know, what's going to happen, similar to when I had my boys, because I've got 3 boys, they're all bilingual, but I gave birth in France. And so during the first pregnancy, I was a bit worried about, oh my goodness, you know, am I going to be able to speak English to them? Are they going to understand? I mean, all these crazy questions now. But so yes, so that was a similar question when I first started coaching people in English. The problems are the same, but the way they open up maybe, or the way they describe their problems isn't actually the same. And it's very, very interesting. I find that the people I've coached, the English speakers, because not all of them are native English speakers, but they speak English. So the people I've coached in English tend to be very more direct about what's going on.
Yeah.
There seems to be less barriers. And the French who I've coached, or who I'm still coaching, they're not really sure. Coaching doesn't necessarily have the same press as in English speaking countries either. So some of the people come to me and they're not too sure what they're going to find, you know, but what some of them say, what are you going to do to me? And I'm like, I'm not going to do anything to you. I am going to do things that will hopefully help you, but you are going to do things for you. I'm not going to do anything.
You're going to do the work.
Yeah. You're going to do the work. Yeah. And I think that is a very big difference, a very big cultural difference. And especially, as I said, having my 3 boys who've had all their schooling here in France. The difference is for me that French people don't tend to sort of own or take responsibility for what's going on. And that for me comes from the way they've been educated in the school system.
Okay, that's interesting, because you've got an insight into the school system through your boys that I just don't have.
Yeah. And I really think that that comes through because, I mean, not all English people obviously will be very direct to know more or less what's going on, okay? But it's just the way, as I said, the way they come to me and how they express themselves to begin with. And they're really sort of holding back. And sometimes when I ask a question, because you know that's how we coach, we ask these powerful questions. And sometimes when they don't know the answer, they get quite not frustrated, sometimes maybe even a little upset, you know, and then they say, but what am I supposed to say? Or when they give an answer, is that what you were expecting, you know? And I find, yes, have I got it right? And that really is, for me as a mom now to children who've had schooling here in France, that is one of the main questions that children ask themselves, but then they take that through to their adult life, which I feel is such a shame. You know, we've got enough on our plates already without asking ourselves, have I got that right? Is that the right answer?
Yeah, that's really interesting, because there is no right answer, is there? There is only what is, and perception is whether it's right or wrong. It's what drives our behaviours and our thinking. How we see something, whether it's true or not, is at the heart of most of our issues.
Exactly. And that is why, for me, it's really important to tell them what their inner compass is, because when you talk about that to French people, or when I talk about that to French people, they're like, eyes wide open. What is she talking about? So to tell them if there is a right answer, and same as you, I don't like right and wrong. I don't like those words. But I say, if there is a right answer, you have it. You have it inside yourself. Your inner compass is what your soul inside is telling you, is nudging you sometimes, or sometimes screaming at you, depending on
yes, and like you say, it will keep doing so until you listen, until you change.
Yeah. So for me, that's the only place where we can find a right answer.
Yes, and it's right for now. It may not be right forever.
Thanks for saying that, because that's what they sometimes say as well. Oh, okay, so that's always going to be true. And I said, well, not necessarily. And it does really puzzle them. It does really puzzle them to begin with. And then I love it, because after a few sessions, these are the French people now, they relax into the process. They relax into the whole thing. And I can actually see it from their, you know, their body language and things like that. They do transform on very many different levels. And it's just lovely to see that as well, you know, that they can come in and just relax into it and look forward as well to our sessions. So yeah.
One of the things I love about clients where I work with them over a period is that they will start to come in sometimes with I've thought about this and I want to start here.
Yes.
Today they become more active in their own therapy, in their own development. That rather than waiting for me to instigate or to ask them questions, they'll go, I've been thinking about this, and let's start here and see if this takes us somewhere.
Yeah. Don't you find that that's where you think they're at that tipping point, aren't they? And they're really taking the full responsibility. So
the lag on Zoom is difficult to. We could have tried to be together. Maybe we'll do a supplementary where we actually have a cup of tea.
Yes, that would be lovely. That would be lovely.
Put one for in the cafe for later in the year. It's like being an independent learner, isn't it? If you in your teaching terms, that once they read, they've got the tools that they need to learn for themselves. I see I've done my job.
Yes. Yeah. That is, isn't it? That's really, if we were to define our job as a coach, it's that, isn't it? It's to give them the tools that they need, like you said, in our toolkit. There are very many different things. And so to give them what they need, and then for them to be able to use them and move forward. Yeah.
And work ourselves out of a job. I'm never more delighted than when a client leaves me.
Yes. Yes.
And hopefully gone on. I've had one or two wonderful. I had a message from a client not long ago who I saw 2012, and she's now in Canada, having had a very, very limited sphere of where she could go, broke out of that and has just blossomed. And that is the ultimate in satisfaction, isn't it, to see someone living their absolute best life.
Yes. Yeah, that's why I went into coaching, because it's helped me to start living my best life, because I'm only at the beginning of this wonderful adventure in my path. So it's really, really helped me. But yeah, it was like, that's, for me, this is the beginning of a legacy that I want to leave behind. It's everybody has the possibility to really take control and responsibility for their lives and to lead their best lives, and to be permanently adapting as well. Because I can't remember who said this, but change is the only constant in life. Maybe you know who said that.
I can't remember, but I know of the quote. Yes.
And that's something that I live by every day now. Because
there's conversation I have with my adult daughters that they are incredibly resilient, and this last 12 months has really tested that. And that resilience to be able to, when life knocks you down, to get back up again.
Yeah.
And to recognise I've lost my English now, the wounds, the blessures, the problems that may have cost you when you fell down, to tend to yourself and then to get on with it. And you're stronger because maybe next time it can't knock you down in the same way.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or maybe you caught a wave, and that's what you learned in difficult times, that you saw what was coming, you hopped on your surfboard and you actually got out of it better.
Yeah. But don't you find that when we are actually open to just connecting to what is as well, that's where the magic starts to happen. When we're in control, or when we want to be in control, that's where everything just either stops or actually goes the wrong, well, not the wrong way, but the way that we don't want it to go. And that was my life pattern until my mid-40s, in control, because that's how I felt safe.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of my clients bring to me, actually. It's this, but what happens when I let go? And so to be able to sort of reassure them at that particular point in their journey, and just to say, there is something on the other side. It's just working up enough self-confidence as well to be able to finally let go.
And trust is a big thing there. One of the conversations that I often have is, well, who will I be without this thing that I do? Who will I be without alcohol? Who will I be without this work, all this work that I do? Who will I be if I let go of my children? Who is the person that will emerge after I've changed? Because I can't see her. I can't see him. It's scary to step into that unknown.
It really is. It really, really is. And that's, I think, maybe even the most important part of coaching for me, is to be there at that particular moment. Because for me, when they arrive, they're not at that point. That will come during the unfolding of what they came for. And so that for me is the critical point. It really is, isn't it? Because we've been there, we've done that, maybe not in the same way as them, but we know this pulling, isn't it? That, I don't know about you, Hilary, but at one point I just felt like an elastic band that had been stretched too much, and it was either going to break, or it was just going to either stretch and stretch and stretch and then just come back, or totally break. And I was like, right, you have to do something. And so that was when I took the first leap of faith. And my God, that was scary. That was so scary, because I thought, if I do this, I'm going to lose everything. Everything. I'm going to lose my friends, my family, my business, because I was already self-employed before I became a coach. And so, but as I said, I just got to this point in life where it was like, if you don't do it, you may well live with that regret as well. So it came to the point where, you know, yeah, I might regret it, but that wasn't, you know, it wasn't as important as taking that leap of faith. There was that point where I was just standing on the edge and just like, yeah, okay, now is the time. Just trust.
Is there a
And
moment where not changing becomes more scary than changing? Is that the tipping point? Because certainly for me, I look back at some of the big changes in my life, and staying where I was just it terrified me because of who I was becoming. I could see myself becoming a woman I didn't want to be. And if I was to be the woman I felt, and goes back to your point about listening and your true listening to your
yes,
heart and your soul,
yeah,
she was getting lost in all the noise of this world that I'd created for myself. And sometimes you just have to go, I can't.
yeah. No, I actually went past that point at one point in my life. And that was when I had my first really big wake-up call back in 2008. Yeah, I had real health problems. Like, my body was screaming at me,
Yeah.
literally screaming at me. And so what happened was, I just ignored, you know, the back pain, and I just would have a week off work, because at the time I was, you know, I was employed. I didn't have my own business. And so I just take a week off work and then go back, and then have to go and have some physio, and then go back to work. And this went on for years. And the people I was seeing were saying, but if it keeps coming back, and I was like, yeah, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. And so one day I wasn't fine, and I couldn't walk, because what had happened to my back, I had a massive slip disc, and that had paralyzed my right leg.
Oh,
So I actually physically could not walk. And so my
there's
doctor,
the universe giving you a very, very strong signal that actually you've got to stop.
yes,
It stopped you.
it literally physically stopped me from even being able to stand up. So this went on for weeks, months probably. And I got help. And that's when I started on my path of sort of re-owning myself. Because like you say, when I actually stopped and took stock of my life and the person I had become, I was like, who is she?
Yeah.
Who is she? And that was a real shock. And so luckily I got the right help at the time. And that's also when I started to get into all the energy work, because I didn't want to have traditional medicine. That's something that I'm against. I haven't been, you know, I hadn't been up until then, but it was just something as well that was very, very strong in me.
Yeah.
And so this wonderful lady was a psychotherapist, but also used the energy to help us. And so that's when I got interested in all the energy work and the chakras and everything. And that turned my life around. And so a couple of months later, when it was time to go back to work, I managed 2 weeks, half time, because I couldn't sit down for more than 2-3 hours without being in physical pain. And so I resigned and I set up my own business just after the subprime crisis. So if that's not a leap of faith, I don't know what is.
Yes, when I left my very safe, secure job, which had a wonderful pension, and I could probably have been in for life unless I'd done something truly dreadful. And I also got divorced. And there was something else that happened, but I did it all at the same time, and everyone looked at me as though I was absolutely mad. But it was in that time I rediscovered the person that I had wanted. I thought I was going to be. She was there, hidden under all of those layers of everybody else's expectations.
Yeah.
And a difficult time. And I know I caused pain for lots of people in doing those changes, but I couldn't not when I got there.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it is, isn't it? And I think, I don't know whether it's women, but it's definitely people with feminine energy. I think we often wonder what's going to happen to everybody else if I make this change. And I don't know about you, but that was in the balance for me for a long time, because I thought, and often mistakenly now with hindsight, but I thought that that would not actually, you know, be of use for them, or maybe they would be upset or whatever. And so I held back for quite a long time as well, because I didn't want to upset anybody else. And so it was easier for me at the time to upset myself, and so therefore to be totally disconnected from who I am, than to take that risk of upsetting everybody else. And I think that's very, very common.
Yes, and I see it a lot in my clients, is that actually they are still radiating the negativity they're feeling, whether they think they are or not. That we think we have a mask that we put on that says everything's fine, but actually people know.
Indeed, and that's what energy work teaches us. I mean, it teaches us loads of stuff, but that's one of the things it teaches us. But this is it, when we don't know, we think that nobody knows except us. Nobody can sense it. So, you know, if we don't go and tell everybody, then who's to know? But you're so right.
You're a big flashing beacon of, I'm not okay.
Exactly, yeah. So being very careful as well about, as you said, about what we radiate and how we radiate it. And for me, that comes back again to, what do I want to radiate as well?
Yes.
You know,
what do you want to radiate? What does a happy Sarah in her element, what do you radiate?
Just being as authentic as possible, however that shows up, and just being outside in nature. I mean, a happy Sarah, my happy place is the beach. You know, kick off my shoes, walk on the sand, go for a swim. That's a happy place. So for me, it's really sort of connecting to nature. It's connecting to our nature, of course, but connecting to nature, because we can learn so much. I've got really, really interested in the moon cycles quite recently as well. And I haven't finished what I'm reading, but it's absolutely fascinating to realize how connected we are, in fact, to all of the elements as well.
Well, we are 97% water. And given that the moon and gravity affects the movement of water, it would be highly surprising if we weren't affected by all those cycles.
Yeah. But again, you know, until we know, you know, until we either discover it or somebody says, hey, you know, have you heard of that? Have you read this book? Then we would not necessarily go in that direction.
But there's so much out there to explore. And isn't that one of the wonderful things, that we keep learning?
Yes, I think so. Some people I know who don't actually. Some people, I remember when I went back to, you know, for training, 6 months training is quite a long time, isn't it? You know, and doing this distance learning that we both did. And I remember quite a few people who were close to me at the time. They said, what do you want to go and do that for? You know, you've got a degree and you've got your business. So what on earth do you want to go and do some more learning for? And I was like, oh, if I don't learn, I said, the day I stop learning will be my last day physically on this earth.
Same here. Because I learn something from every conversation I have. Yes. And every you spot something on as much of a double-edged sword as Facebook is. There are some, it sends me down some wonderful rabbit holes. If you follow the right people and are in the right kind of energy space in the groups, there's some wonderful content to be had on the internet.
There is indeed, and that takes me back to what you said at the beginning, the red thread. Because thanks to Facebook, I had the most wonderful, mind-blowing experience in we're just outside San Francisco, nearly 3 years ago. And that was thanks to a Facebook group at the time. And the name of the group, which no longer exists, was called the Gratitude Circle.
Oh, how lovely.
I know. And I came to that group in 2015 when I was at the crossroads and there was nothing going right in my life, or at least that's what I thought. And somebody had suggested gratitude. And I was like, you know, yeah, okay. What have I got to be grateful for, basically? You know, don't like my life, don't like what's going on. And anyway, so I went down that rabbit hole, like you said. And one thing led to another, and I became one of the ambassadors for the group. There were 4 of us, 4 gratitude ambassadors, to help the lady who'd set the group up, because originally she just set it up for herself and her friends and family, just because she was also in a bad spot. When I joined, there were 5,000, and when she closed it, there were 45,000 in the group.
Wow.
I know. And she's a coach in America, and she was organizing this wonderful 4-day retreat for women, as I said, just outside San Francisco. And her gift to us, the four of us, for being ambassadors was to gift us that retreat. The only thing we had to do was pay for our flight.
Fantastic.
And that was one of the best times of my life, because I flew on my own, which was a first. That was a leap of faith as well. Flew all the way from Toulouse to San Francisco on my own. Met people who I'd never met in the flesh before. Founded some beautiful friendships, which are still ongoing. And they're really connected to myself, really connected to myself. And that changed how I show up in life now, what I radiate, and also my coaching practice. So thank you, Julie. That was just wonderful, absolutely wonderful. So, and the red thread, sorry, was at the end of that 4 days, we always did everything in circle. And the last ceremony that we did was with a ball of red wool. And everybody tied it around their wrist, and it went round the circle, and then Julie came and cut it at the end, and we had the bracelet on for as long as we wanted. And mine actually came off, I think, at the beginning of this year. It just fell off, but I'd had it on for over 2 years. Just, yeah, a little, you know, red woolen bracelet on, and that was a symbol, you know, as well for me, that okay, this is a new chapter. And for now, 2021 is definitely a new chapter in my life. So yeah.
Opening up of new things.
Yes.
Yeah, so one of the reasons I'm doing these kitchen cafe things is that I miss the energy that the retreats that we host here bring, because when a group of people come together intentionally to create change, it's one of the most powerful things I know, that people come ready to experience a transformation, wanting to know how they can serve, how they can support the whole of the group, as well as to take for themselves. And I'm really missing having that energy around the house. So I'm plotting to see if I can get something going for later in the year with the Silver Tent group that I'm part of. Because I would just like to have that back. And these conversations have been a great substitute for me to have that kind of chance just to talk about things you don't talk about with people in your everyday.
Yeah, it really is a sacred space, isn't it? I think whenever we come together in circle, and especially on a retreat as well, because the idea is to take people away from their daily lives and to put them into a beautiful space, which is where you're living as well. I mean, I had planned to do one of those. I was very ambitious at the time, wasn't I? Because I'd only just set up my coaching business and nobody really knew me. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do a 4-day retreat, and it's going to be booked, you know, fully booked and whatever. And I had no idea how to market it anyway. So that never came off. But that was definitely something I'd be loving to do as from next year.
Well, we should talk some more about it. And one of the things that, in the Silver Tent group I've suggested is I bring together a group of people who haven't run retreats before. We're very lucky here because a lot of places charge lots of upfront fees because we can always let this to holidaymakers. I'm never at any risk that if I put something on and it doesn't work. So what I like to be able to do is to offer space to try it. See if you can build get enough people to come. And if you can't, the perfect French phrase, tant pis, it really doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I can do something else. There's no damage to me, so I'm quite happy to let you have that flexibility. Yeah. So what would your ideal retreat involve? What would you like to do?
I haven't given it too much thought, to be honest, because last time it was going to be 3.5 days. And it was so structured. So there was still a little bit of control there, to be honest. This time it probably longer and a lot more free flowing. Obviously there will be a framework to it, but it will be more a space for people, as I said, to really reconnect to their inner compass. That wasn't the original theme of the retreat, which is maybe why it didn't work out as well. I don't know. There's always a reason.
There's always a reason.
But yeah, so it would be something to give people more time as well, because when I looked back at the program that I put together, and I'd shared with you as well, I think, and I thought, my goodness, if I went on a retreat like that, I'd need another retreat when I got
get over the retreat. Yes, but I think we're driven by needing to offer value, and value is perceived in doing things, when the value in a lot of the retreats we've hosted here is where the retreat organizer allows they just hold space. I remember reading Suzanne Sherlock-Durana, and she talks about that holding of space so that someone can achieve or can do whatever they need to do, or be whatever they need to be right now. but you are still working, because that holding of space is energetically quite taxing.
Exactly. And having been on the retreat, because the one I'd planned with you was, I think, in the March or May of the same year when I went on the retreat in San Francisco. So that was obviously to show me as well, I think,
Yes.
because there was a lot of holding of space there. And that's what I do in my group workshops anyway. It's a half-day workshop. Yeah, they get input. Yeah, they get value. But there is a lot of time just to hold the space, just to reflect as well. And so, and that happens too, you know, in the one-to-one coaching sessions as well. A lot less doing, like you say, and a lot more just being.
Yeah. And then maybe that's the gift of someone choosing to come for coaching or choosing to come on a retreat, is they are gifting themselves time outside their busy schedule and outside the normal, which allows the things that have been trying to come in, the chance to actually come in.
Definitely. Definitely. And I feel a lot more privileged even now as a coach. I mean, I've always loved what I've been doing. But especially in recent times, especially since, you know, the lockdown, pandemic and everything else, because people are more and more vulnerable, or at least are coming out as being more and more vulnerable. And it's such a privilege, I find. You talked about trust, and that is essential, but it's a real privilege to just be with them as well, and to let them be who they really are. And I don't know about you, but everybody says to me, I've never said that to anybody else in my life.
Yes. Yeah. And it is, I feel honoured every time anyone lets go in that way and shares that with me. It is,
Yes.
I say, a privilege and an honour to be in that trust circle.
So long
well, I'm
may
just
it
looking at the
continue.
clock, and we have managed to rattle through the time, but that felt like 5 minutes.
I know.
So, I will be in touch, and we will organise retreat. I will put your website details and how people can contact you on my website. So people, if they want to contact you now, they can. But I'm really looking forward. Well, we need to organise a cup of tea. I'll come up to Toulouse.
That would be wonderful.
And if
yes,
you have
I would
time, we'll do a mini kitchen cafe catch up with the two of us.
That would be wonderful. Yes. Yeah, that would be so great.
Thank you so much for today.
Thank you, Hilary. Thanks.